Right, so Lisa, so it's just you and I so far of the committee members, and then Karen and Martin are both here,
okay.
and we've got Matt from PACE and Jim Payne from the HOA, and
I get it.
yep. So, do we have any public comment?
Yes, we do.
For today. Excellent.
Hold on a second. Okay, so good evening, Jim Payne, Superior resident and president of the Rock Creek HOA. And I just wanted to bring before the committee, and I was hoping to get sort of a focus group response, which is not going to do, but I do have some expertise here, and Lisa certainly would have some familiarity with it. So if you go back to, I don't know how many years it's been now, 3 or 4 years, we used to have for a while a town-sponsored large item pickup. Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong on any of my history, Martin, but the town took that out of the budget, I don't know, 4 years ago or 3 years ago. I think it was 4 years ago. And it was popular. Mm-hmm. There were issues with it. One issue was that it was all 1 day a year, so everybody put everything out, and it took, 3 days for the hauler to get around and get it all. And that was disturbing to a lot of people, and then it would rain and mess stuff up, and then we had scavengers coming in from all over the place picking off the good stuff, and then we had a lot of people ignoring the rules and putting out inappropriate stuff, which then created a whole other problem. So it was sort of left to, and then we looked, and I worked with the town and Martin at the time on trying to see what we might be able to find as an alternative, and we talked to the local hauler contractor who had been doing that for us, and who really wasn't set up to do individual billing and handle that with the with homeowners. And so the result of that was that we decided to come up with a list, which you're aware of, and of all of the options that people had, you know, the different charities, the 1-800 junks, the drop-off places, you know, Charm and Echo Cycle and all that, and that's out there, and that's a pretty good idea. And we don't really have any way to gauge the use, but I think people do use it.
And
so now,
the newsletter, just to add. We have the link for all those.
Right, and we link on the HOA website also. So we could leave it there, and it comes up occasionally. There's still people who call who call each year and say, hey, when's the pickup this year? But somebody came forward to me, and who's in business. He does business in Rock Creek, mostly with dumpsters. He supplies dumpsters, and they're very nice. They're nicely painted. They're not the old rusty kind. And it's called, his company's called Rubbish Works. Excuse me? Okay, so his company's called Rubbish Works of Denver, but he's out of Louisville, and I think his trucks are right now, he keeps them in Broomfield. They're nice trucks. They're not giant trucks. They're this sort of medium size, so I don't think there's a lot of heavy truck that would be adding to the streets, and they're fairly new and in good condition. And he is offering to do a monthly pickup where the HOA would do nothing, and the town would do nothing, but he would do a monthly pickup. Let's say it's the second Wednesday of the month or whatever we decide on. The HOA would blast that out to advise people that, you know, this coming Wednesday is the pickup. They call him. He would take their credit card and pick it up. They tell him what they have, and he'd bill them. It's a very simple formula. I'll just show this. I didn't want to leave. Thanks. I didn't want to distribute copies because it looks final, but it's not final. It's just sort of a prototype. But he has a very simple formula: $1 per cubic foot. He can pick up anything other than hazmat, anything, yard waste. Nice. So that would sort of address the yard waste pickup issue that we talk about. Huh?
Except there's still a charge.
Oh, yeah, people have to pay for it, yeah. and it's $1 per cubic foot. And so then the question is, well, what about Waste Connections? Waste Connections under our contract, and it's the same under the town's contract with the town subscribers, is like $15 for a large item. But Waste Connections isn't really into that. I mean, it's not really what they want to do. It's pretty much an adjunct. So we would take that and compare it with, talk to Waste Connections, who's our hauler and the town's hauler, and talk to anyone else. We don't, as an HOA, we don't have to get involved with competitive bidding. If it's somebody who looks like it's a good service that will be well received and well run and doesn't take our time, we can just do that on a handshake. But we'll obviously check around and make sure it's a competitive price for the subscribers. So I simply am bringing that to your attention. Martin feels that that's something the town could tag. It's probably easier if they just tag onto our program, because then you don't have to get involved in contracts and bidding and all that sort of thing. And if you don't, it really doesn't matter to us, but I think it would make sense. So our board is open to it, and we're going to look a little further at it and talk to some of the other vendors. So I'm just throwing that out there, making you aware of it, seeing if anyone has any thoughts. What do you think?
I think it's a
Lisa.
very cool idea.
I think it'd be popular.
Yeah, I know I definitely would use it
Yeah.
every once in a while. So I think it'd be a great option since we don't have a recurring, free large item pickup anymore.
Right.
And I think that, billing seems pretty straightforward, so you can know exactly how much you're actually going to be charged for something.
Right.
So.
No, I asked him, and I'd like to hear what Lisa has to say, but I asked him, I don't know how much of this would actually contribute to diversion rates. I mean, a lot of this is going to go to, landfill.
Hey, Lisa, we can hear you. Just a moment.
And then,
okay.
Just a second, Lisa. I don't know how much of this is.
Sorry.
Is she talking there?
I think you can go.
Okay, so it's
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Lisa. I think Jim was just going to finish up what he was saying, and then would love to get your thoughts.
right. So I'm just saying, I don't know how much of this, the electronics would go to where electronics go, the appliances, all of that would be fairly standard. I don't think there would be a lot that would go to true recycling. A lot of it ends up in landfill. I don't know if it would really substantially contribute to our diversion rate, and I've asked him to what extent he could even keep track of that. So that's another question that we're sensitive to. But that's just a thought. I think it would be a popular service if we can get it right, and the billing works and everything else. But he's the first one who's really able to handle is willing to handle the homeowner billing the right way, I think. So,
Cool.
Lisa?
Okay, thanks. I think so. It sounds like they're gonna basically schedule it to be collected from an individual household with a fee. Is that correct?
Right. The household, the HOA, and
No, just a yes or no is fine. Just a yes or no is all I'm after now, because I can't hear that well. So,
okay. Yes.
the individually scheduling it would be for a fee based on per square foot or whatever you call it.
Cubic foot. Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not a big fan, and the reason is because there's no incentive in there for people to divert stuff. Like if it's yard waste, it's going to go to the landfill, I'm sure, because it's going to get mixed up with everything else that's being collected that day. And with the person, they're not going to bring out 2 trucks for yard waste versus something that's recyclable versus something that should go to trash. And I would be especially disturbed if we ever were able to get through pay as you throw. I would definitely be against this service. But I'm concerned about people being encouraged to just put out anything and things that we would prefer to see diverted. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we would obviously, our goal would be to anywhere we can contribute to diversion is fine. But then I have to ask the question: is what's the alternative? I mean, they. By the way, they're
not illegally dumping, so they're not putting it in the street or anything like that, which is a nice thing. We're not like in some neighborhood where people are illegally dumping. So. we don't have that side of things to worry about here.
Right, but he's small enough and agile enough. You know, these are not giant trucks. He can send out what he needs. He may very well, let's say in the fall, be able to collect yard waste and divert it to our facility or somewhere else. He may be able to do some of that, and I would certainly would pursue that and see what he can do. It's an experiment, and I hear you. I understand, and I appreciate your input. When better communication, maybe I can talk to you and get more input from you. So that's the thought.
Yeah. Well, you've got my opinion, so.
Every other month during the irrigation season.
Right.
As part of your focus group.
Good. Okay, well, that's it. And thanks for your time.
Cool. Thanks, Jim.
I'll be back to you on this.
There we go. Any additional public comment? Nope. Well then, Karen, you and I had discussed just skipping ahead to the PACE discussion for now, and then we can go back to the other stuff, just so we can be respectful of your time.
Great. Well, yeah, thank you very much. For the record, I'm Matt with the Boulder County PACE program, as I believe you all know. I'm here kind of on behalf of Zach, but him and I are obviously both kind of rolling out the program a little bit from the county side. And I just thought I would check in with you all and provide a little bit of an update from our side of things, if that works. Maybe take 10 minutes or so. I basically just I have a couple things on my screen here. I don't think it's really necessary that we pull them up on the big screen, but I'm just going to kind of go over a couple of tasks that we've discussed, I think, on the last meeting, kind of where we stand from the PACE side of things. So first, this is all under the development program category. So set up regular check-in meetings with ACES, PACE, and Chamber. We're doing that. I think this is obviously our second meeting here. Met with the Chamber last week along with Caitlin, and Heather's very supportive over there, which is great to see. So we're going to continue working on that. The next item is review question sets and add superior specific questions. That's something that Zach just did here the last few days, and I thought I'd just kind of quickly let you know that there are 90 questions or markers, I guess you could call them, that we have in Green Biz Tracker as just general questions. So that's, use laptops instead of desktops under indoor conservation and LED or LED exit signs. So 90 of those questions with 24 superior specific questions or indicators that we've developed. And I was thinking that instead of putting them up here and going through all of them, we'll be emailing these to Caitlin to review, and then if any of you would like to see them, which we suggest just kind of glancing through, they're pretty easy to read through in an Excel document we have here. We have the measure listed, the points, and then obviously kind of the category: energy, waste, water, et cetera. So if any of you would like to see those, I think I might have Martin's email, but I don't believe I have yours. So you can just feel free to give that to me right when we're done here, and I'm happy to send those on to you, and you can review them, see if there's anything that we're missing, anything you'd like to see, anything that you don't think is appropriate or necessary. So that was just kind of my thinking, because it'd probably be easier and save some time here.
Karen, is that something that you could share with him as our email addresses and stuff, so he has all that?
Yep, absolutely.
Perfect.
Great. Yeah, if you want to send that to me, I can send it to you tomorrow when I'm back in the office, and
Cool.
At your leisure, you can review the measures that we have here.
That is the same list that you had last month?
I'm not sure. Zach just pulled this somewhat recently, so a lot of it might be the same. It's kind of the general list that we have for pretty much any community, and then he actually came up with some more superior specific measures that are more new construction oriented. So obviously the new construction is kind of a big one here. So you're going to kind of take a quick look through that. It shouldn't take too long. 90 sounds like a daunting number, but these are less than a sentence each kind of thing. That is review question sets and add superior specific questions. So we'll do that. I'll email it to you. Incorporate Superior's new construction questions into the platform. That's what I just discussed. So those 24 are new ones that we'd add in, or up to 24. Some of them are appropriate, some aren't. And so it's kind of up to you to decide what you'd like in there. There's 4 that Zach did want me to bring up to your attention, and that is the question of installing, does a business install solar awnings? He thinks that might be a duplicate because it's too close to the renewable energy question, which is basically, does the business or new construction have renewable energy? Another one is find alternative uses for single pass effluent, such as landscaping, boiler or cooling tower, makeup water, toilet flushing, etc., ensuring that effluent does not contain any waste streams such as grease or chemical agents. That is not really a practical question, he feels like, for a lot of the businesses here in new construction, so that's one you might want to take off.
Okay.
And then a couple more. Plant at least 8 native shade trees. Another one where it's kind of a specific quantity. You don't really need to plant 8 trees. You could just say plant some native shade trees or native vegetation. And then install solar power charging stations for EVs. And that's another one that's kind of a duplicate of the EV and renewable energy question. So I'll just include that when I email you, so you don't have to remember everything I'm telling you right now, but just that I'd say it for the record. Define recognition tiers. That's something that Zach's currently working on. He kind of has to, it's kind of not completely under his control. It's under GreenBiz Tracker's control to break that out a little bit on their side. So that's he's hoping it'll be done by tomorrow, maybe next week. So we'll see how that goes. Define business recognition benefits, i.e. Town Board of Trustees acknowledgement, decal media. That's something on ACE's plate, and then we're kind of supporting a bit more. So just wanted to kind of keep that on your radar to see if you guys have done any recognition benefits. Obviously, it doesn't have to be a NUD now, but something to think about over the next few weeks. And then set up meetings to introduce and coordinate with partners. So Chamber of Commerce, Town Communications Officer, and that's something that we've done. Obviously met with the Chamber, met with you, and then anything else kind of as we go, we'll take care of that as we go. The next set is the official launch, and that's really not appropriate for right now. We're still a few weeks, a month plus away from that, so I'm not going to worry about that now. But I will. I'll still send this the work plan with this timeline here that I'm reading from onto you, just as a kind of reminder, just to kind of keep everything on track. And with that, I think that's just about all I had for the update. Yeah, we pulled the measurements. I'll email them to you if I can get all those email addresses, and then it's just kind of up to you guys at your leisure to look them through, and let us know if you have any questions, and we can take it from there.
Perfect, thanks.
Any questions?
Yeah, Caitlin had a couple that she brought up in an email to us.
Okay.
I just wanted to go over. So some of the things she was looking at having ACES potentially do is, whenever applicable, getting the application link for PACE so we can put that on the town website, which obviously is closer to the launch.
Yeah.
And then we also wanted to ask, so obviously we want to get a press release and some blurbs that we can share.
Yeah.
Do you have existing examples of those that we can kind of just more or less copy and tweak, or is that entirely on us to?
Yeah. I wouldn't see an issue with that. We have obviously ones from Louisville and Lafayette from past years. I don't see why there's any reason not to share them with you. I'll double check with Zach on that. He's kind of done a lot of the press release stuff for those two previously.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm sure we could probably forward on one or two of those two, and you can obviously not word for word copy it, but it gives you a pretty good idea, and you can just switch out the name, Louisville with Superior, and switch a couple things around if you'd like.
Okay, that sounds great. And I think the one other thing that came up was, Lisa, you talked about having kind of an online class or training, and just wanted to see what the status of that is, and if it makes sense to have a question included around the training. So if you have any updates on that, or what you're thinking about from that perspective, that'd be great too.
I'm going through security, so I've got to hang up. I'll talk to you later.
All right, sounds good. Thanks. Bye. I guess we'll.
I guess we can put that one on the back burner at the moment.
Yeah. But yeah, it sounds like everything else is on track. Is there anything else pressing that ACES needs to do to support?
I don't think so. I mean, the next sounds like June 8th is your next meeting, so that's when we'll be, obviously a bit closer to the launch time. If you're looking at, mid-June, late June, so that's when we want to have a lot of things kind of ready to go, or just about ready to go. But I think for now, if I get your email addresses, I'll just send you the checklists, the sample press release, and then anything else necessary.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And I'll just hand you this. This is my email address. So you can just send me, and I'll respond to you.
Perfect. Thank you,
so much, Fran. Do we want to move on to the new business and updates?
Certainly. We're good to do that. So if you want to pull up the
Sure.
newsletter. So I was just going to go through really quickly that any newsletter items that pertained to our committee, and it looks like there's this first one here on which is basically off of the flyer that was going to be handed out at Arbor Day, but because Arbor Day was canceled, we did not pass this out, but it did go into the June newsletter on how to choose and dispose of light bulbs in your home, different LEDs and CFLs. So that was kind of an article. And then if you scroll down, it does talk about committee vacancies. And here in a little bit, I'll under committee reappointment schedule, I'll kind of go through that. I think you can, it's kind of a ways down.
Okay.
You just kind of do a lot of scrolling. So right there, keep going. It's right there.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
So it just kind of goes through the, it's just one form or one way that we are letting people know about our vacancies on our committees. If you go down a little bit more, there's a free sprinkler consultation blurb from Resource Central right there that town residents can take advantage of. And then down at the bottom, there's a large household item information. It kind of goes through a lot of different ways. I think this is basically what Martin was speaking of earlier, that we do put all of these different options for residents in the newsletter. If you scroll down, there's quite a bit of other information as far as yard waste and bulk item discard and all of that. So that was all in the May newsletter. So the only other thing I was going to talk about is in my position as the committee coordinator, I have been tasked with putting together a survey to get information from current committee members, staff liaisons, and board members on how they feel committees are running currently. I am going to take the results from that survey. It's going to be a really quick survey. It's going to go out to all of those groups, and there'll be specific questions for each group. They won't answer all of them, but they'll get to see what everyone is being asked. And like I said, I'm going to use those results in implementing expectations from the board as far as streamlining processes across all committees. Implementing a formal orientation and onboarding procedure for new members, so as they come on to a new committee, they'll be able to feel a little bit more prepared for their service. And then creating a recruitment marketing plan in order to hopefully fill a lot of these vacancies that we have on our committees currently. So that survey, I'm spending the month of May attending all of the committee meetings so that everyone can kind of get to know me. And then once they see that email from me with that survey, we'll feel hopefully a little bit more comfortable in giving some honest opinions as far as their feelings for the committees, how they're currently running. So I'm excited about getting that out and getting that results back so I can start the process of writing a committee and commission manual. So then it's moving on to B, which is the events recap. So the HHW HTR event, we do not have any numbers from this event as of yet, but once we do have those numbers, I'll bring them to the committee and share that. As we all know, unfortunately, Arbor Day was canceled. So that didn't happen. The compost workshop was actually a fantastic event. I was there for the whole evening. The master composter, Melanie, she was fantastic in delivering her information, kept everyone very engaged, and I think everyone left with new information or their questions answered as far as composting goes. We had 40 people sign up, 23 showed up, which was a nice room size, so it worked well.
Did anyone, may I ask, did anyone have any questions on the HOA?
They didn't,
information?
they did not. We did have that. Melanie was really good about making sure that that flyer was available. And I didn't notice as to whether anyone picked that up, but I do know that they were all made aware that it was there. And then I think we can kind of skip over the next one, the July 4th event, since Essie, you're the only committee member
Yep.
here, and we'll kind of talk about that at our next meeting on who is interested in being a part of that event. As far as the committee reappointment schedule goes, we have 2 members on ACES who are up for reappointment, Essie Snell and Lisa Skumatz, and both have indicated that they would like to be reappointed. That is scheduled for the June 11th town board meeting. We have 1 member up for appointment at this coming Monday, May 14th town board meeting. And as Martin mentioned earlier, Colleen Callan has notified us that she would like to step down. We do have another potential new member that will be interviewed on May 29th at that town board meeting. So we will, with all of that transition and that moving around, I think we will still have 3 open vacancies. And I, like I mentioned earlier, am putting together a recruitment plan and process that will start late summer to kind of get some new members. So, and that's all I have.
Well, thanks so much. So I guess we did.
Essie, if it's okay if I jump in
Oh,
on
sure.
the one item that I let Karen know that I would help her, support her on during this transition is helping with budget. So the last item under updates was budget. So like I've mentioned the last couple of months, this is budget season. So as we are circling the wagons for budget season coming up over the course of the summer, when the town board reviews the final preliminary budget that the manager and staff put together. We're in the middle of that process now, and a month from tomorrow, we need to have our initial submittals all in. So over the last couple of months, we've talked a little bit about getting ready and bringing any new ideas that would make sense for the committee to recommend to the board for consideration in the 2019 budget. We're kind of coming down to it. Last month, I think we went through the list of items that were recommended last year for this year's budget. And we've all heard them. There are a lot of the ongoing programs that we have currently being operated through town and town staff. And we don't need to spend any time on it tonight. But if there was any additional item that you wanted to bring up now would be a great time. But the committee also has an opportunity next month to chat some more about this. Okay. But the caveat there is the balanced budget is due the following week. Not that it's not that it's a hard and fast deadline, but that's why I mention it in the months leading up to the June meeting, and then once June starts is when we're in full budget mode. Sure. So over those next couple of months, the June-July time frame, we need to assemble a balanced budget for the town manager to forward to the town board for consideration, and then have the finance committee meeting. So there can be some adjustment through there, just like you've seen in past years, and the other committee members have seen in past years. But next month is kind of the time to submit everything that we can.
Okay.
So just a reminder for the group.
Thanks.
For Essie.
Right. It's all for me. All right. Shall we skip ahead to the cemetery restoration project?
Yes.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks so much
Thanks,
for coming.
Matt. Thank you. So this is a discussion that we'll probably need to have a few more members in attendance for, but it is Trustee Dozell has requested that we seek out other committee members' interest in being on a temporary working group for the cemetery restoration project. This temporary working group will just be supporting the historical committee in their efforts of completing this project. And we're just trying to find out if anyone from ACES is interested in being a part of that group.
Okay.
And then once we find that out, then they'll get more information as to where that temporary working group is going.
Gotcha. Do you happen to know if there are any sustainability-related aspects of the cemetery restoration project, or is it just sort of a call for volunteers, or?
Yeah, at this point, it's pretty much just a call for interest
Okay.
for volunteers. I don't have details.
Okay, thanks. And then, looks like we come up with the pros newsletter bullet points.
Yes.
Um,
And so this, I may have talked about this at our last meeting a little bit. I know I've sent out an email in regards to it. In my month and a few days that I've been working here, this was one of the things that I had noticed that I think we need to do a little bit better on, is getting the word out to the community on what all of our committees are working on, and kind of celebrating some of their wins or successes in different project completion. And so in order to make it easy for each of the committees, I didn't want to ask for a specific full-length newsletter article, but we figure what we can do is in the monthly pros newsletter, we'll have a committee update corner where we'll have bullet points that will be listed from each committee with any photos from events that have gone on that will kind of outline in detail what our committees are working on. I thought this also might kind of help to get it in front of the community as far as recruitment, the recruitment process goes for committee members, to try and get the word out on what you're working on, and then that might spark interest through other community members to get involved. So our first one will be going out this Friday, and we have all of the bullet points from every committee for May, and so we just need to kind of work on what we would like to get out there for June.
okay.
Sure.
So you're saying put this in the Parks and Rec newsletter?
Yes, absolutely.
And why wouldn't that dilute the newsletter? I mean, why wouldn't you put it, first of all, in the Sentinel, in the main newsletter, or have a dedicated newsletter on committee updates?
Sure. At this point, we're
Seems to me
kind of,
it's-
yeah, I love those ideas. At this point, we're just kind of starting small and getting the word out there. All of these committees, my position lies within the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Department. And because that's where my position lies, that's where we decided to start with this information and kind of get it out there. And then we're always open to growing and making it bigger.
Okay. And I don't know about I'd have to see how this goes and how much is there, how much content it is, but we'd be open to discussing, including something in the HOA newsletter, which goes to, 2/3 of the town too.
Sure,
So that's
sure. Excellent, I appreciate that.
So we can
I'll
meet
make
and talk
sure
about that at some
Yeah,
point.
absolutely.
and other ways to coordinate.
Excellent, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. I jotted down 3 bullets since I've been taking notes, so I'll share those with you after this.
Perfect, that sounds great.
And then I guess last time is the preparation for the May 28th dinner with the town board, which I will attend and Caitlin will attend, and we can't ask anyone else if they're going to attend,
Right,
so we'll
yes,
follow up via email, I guess.
Yeah, at this point, we do have 2. We would love to have 3, 4 would be even better,
Okay.
members attend. So I will be communicating via email to get those RSVPs.
Okay, thanks. And do you have suggestions on what we can do to best prepare for the meeting?
I think what would be best, and Martin may be able to help with this a little bit, is I kind of looked back at the agendas that were put together in past years, and it looks like basically it was work plan items that were discussed. And so I think it would be best if the committee would like to kind of go through those work plan items and decide which ones they would like to discuss with the town board. Martin, if you have any other suggestions on what they should talk about or discuss with the town board?
You're realizing that it's just us here tonight, but maybe when you send out the quick meeting follow-up from tonight regarding the update, invite anybody who has topics, but like last year a little bit, it might make sense to just say work plan and program highlights,
Mhm.
and then when you sit down with the board in a couple weeks, identify 3 or 4 topics that might make sense, and that's kind of what's happened over the last year or two. I think last year we spent the majority of the time chatting about the commercial building codes and maybe the name change. Some of the topics that were top of mind for the group last year,
Mhm.
I think was the focus of the dialogue that night. during the joint dinner. So maybe something along the same lines.
Okay.
So for the purposes of the agenda, we'll put work plan and program highlights like last year, and then maybe between now and that evening, the group can land on 3 or 4 things that might make sense to specifically bring up as work plan or program highlights.
Okay. Excellent. Thanks. All right. Anything else that anyone wants to discuss? Bueller. All right. Well, thank you so much. Hopefully we'll have some more attendance in the next meeting. But yeah. Cool. Well, we can officially